Folks, these condos are so much harder to sell. I'll get into that, and then the latest home prices and insights for condos across the GTA for week ending November 20th, 2024. We recently sold a tenanted property, and I got to tell you, it is so much harder to sell a tenanted property than a vacant property or an owner-occupied property. And this is not something I want to discuss that's against tenants. These tenants in particular that I'm talking about, they were great. They were easy to get along with. They were accommodating. They'd allowed showings. They were just so nice. They kept the place well. It's what you would expect. But they're human, and the dynamics are a little bit different. And sometimes tenants are unpredictable. When somebody's selling anything, a house, a condo that they're the owners and they live in the unit, they do everything they can to accommodate showings and to, we had a situation where somebody went to go see the unit, the house that we had listed, and the tenant didn't let them in. And this is the tenant that I'm saying is super nice, was very accommodated, and had let in a bunch of other showings before that. But the agent calls me and says the tenant's not letting us in. And so I called the tenant, and he says, Santo, no offense to you, but when we got home after the last showing, the back door was wide open, the front door was unlocked. If this is the way the buying agents are gonna, show the place, we're not comfortable them walking in here if that's the way they're gonna leave our house. Sometimes we leave to allow them to see the place. We kind of schedule our chores around the showing, so we're gonna be out of the house, and sometimes we're not back for a few hours. What if it's raining? The back door was wide open, and then the floor gets ruined, and then we're responsible. And the tenant is right. The tenant is right. And this is a realtor issue that they don't respect the showing. But if it was the homeowner living there, they would also get upset, but they wouldn't have denied the next showing. The tenant understand that even though they may be accommodating, this is a big inconvenience for a tenant. They're not the ones who want to sell the house there. They're living there. They're happy to stay there. They want to stay there longer. This is a big inconvenience for the tenant. In a way, they're doing the seller a favor by allowing all this and keeping the place extra neat when there's going to be showing. So even if you've got the best of tenants, understand you're disrupting their life, and it is an inconvenience to them. So this is where it gets more difficult. Everything is more difficult. The way you show the house, the way you promote the house, photos, staging, how do you do that when there's a tenant and the tenant's family's in there? How do you set up the house? The homeowner, total different story. The homeowner puts their hands up and says, do whatever you want. I will accommodate everything. The tenant, it's harder to do that. And they may be the best tenant on the planet. It's still a nuisance to them. So this is not a anti-tenant thing. I'm saying this, if you are thinking of selling a tenanted property, and there's lots of them on the market tenanted right now. There's over 1,000 condos just in the city of Toronto for sale that are tenanted. But if the opportunity presents itself where you could sell a unit with no tenants, sometimes tenants leave, they move on, and you have a choice. Do I re-rent it and sell it, or do I just sell it now when there's no tenant? Look at your numbers, look at your financing, because I know why a lot of people will make sure that another tenant's in there right away before they sell it. But it's way simpler and usually more productive to sell a unit that's vacant versus one that's tenanted, especially if the new buyer has to take over the tenant. Then you get into a situation where it's really only an investor that is going to be buying it. But a vacant unit, both investors and final end users can buy as buyers. So it opens up the pool of buyers to a lot more people. If you think this video can help somebody please pass it along. If you get value from what we're talking about, subscribe. And if you want to speak with me about your real estate situation, selling, buying, it's really simple. There's a link up here. There's another one below this video in the description. The link is to my calendar. Click on that, book a time that's convenient for you, and we'll talk about whatever's on your mind. Now, let's get into the numbers. Here we go, folks. We're going to focus on condos for the GTA. We're going to break it down into 3 sections. These are condo apartments only we're talking about, not condo townhouses. The data is all for condo apartments for the City of Toronto, for York region, and for Peel region. I've kind of drawn a line here that takes us from the beginning of the fall market to where we are now for week ending November 20th. And when we kind of look at where we were, the City of Toronto, York region, Peel region, they're all, not a lot has changed from when we started in the fall market to where we are now. Not a lot has changed when it comes to average prices. We're going to start off with the City of Toronto for week ending November 20th. 207 condo apartments were sold. 17 of those were at $1 million or more. When we look at the sales, at some point in the fall market, we're going to see sales coming down. We see it here last year, sales dropping to the end of the year. They've not started to drop yet when it comes to condo apartments, and it's actually been pretty steady. So I've got the whole fall market here kind of circled. Sales are pretty solid, just over 200 condo apartments being sold every week almost. Average sold price, $683. That's down from the previous week, but it has been bouncing up and down. If I was to look at it from this angle, I would say average prices, even though they're down this week, maybe slightly trending upwards, but I have another chart that's going to show that in a bit more detail. Compared to last year, 683 is 2% lower year over year. The median price of 625 is also 2% lower. The dotted line, that's a 4-week moving average. Look, there's so many different data points you could look at. We looked at average prices, and now I've got a 4-week moving average, which is the dotted line. They're just different ways of looking at the data. None of them are foolproof where they're 100% the only metric you should use, but it kind of shows things sometimes in a different light. And when we take a 4-week moving average, it eliminates a lot of the peaks and valleys and makes it more of a smoother line. And when I look at the 4-week moving average for average price and median price for condos, it's up slightly. So it is trending up, but very, very slightly. There's not a big difference between where we were at the beginning of the fall season to where we are now. 207 we said were sold, 26% sold at list price or more. Excuse me, that average is pretty constant right now since the beginning of October. Year to date, we're down actually when I compare January 1st to November 20th, just for the City of Toronto. We're down in sales by 6.5%. So fewer sales this year versus last year when it comes to condo apartments. Listings are trending down. Active listings, the amount of condos available for sale, that's trending down. Months of inventory, pretty steady now for the last 5 weeks. We're sitting at 5.6 months of inventory. So more in the buyer's market category, but we're just below that. We say between 3 to 5 months is a balanced market. We're just on the top side of a balanced market, which now goes into a buyer's market. Here's the city broken down into 9 different sections. The whole city, months of inventory, averages to 5.6. When we look at a couple of areas here, downtown is 8.1. Midtown is 8.2 months of inventory. So there are some areas more heavily into the buyer's market category. And then you got areas that are a little bit more competitive going the other way, maybe even being a bit of a taste of a seller's market. Riverdale, East York, Beaches, only 12 condos were sold, but it's a 2.6 months of inventory there. There is some competition when units come up over there. And then the other areas, pretty average, pretty similar to the city's average. Scarborough's 3.9, Etobicoke 5.5, High Park 4.7 months of inventory, Uptown 4.6 months of inventory. So top end of a balanced market, bottom end of a buyer's market, that's where generally the whole city is kind of sitting at. But you got obviously some areas slightly different. Here's York region. 40 condos were sold. 2 of those were at $1 million or more. Average sold price is $669,000. $669,000, it's a little bit higher, but really rounded, it's a 0% change over last year's average sold price. The median price is 1% lower. Now, if I look at the dotted line, prices may be trending down slightly is really what I'm seeing here. Of the 40 that sold, 20%, so 8 of those sold at list price or more. 109 were listed. Active listings is coming down, but slightly. You'll barely notice the difference. And months of inventory sitting at 5.3. And if we look at the fall market, we've had many 5.5s, 5.1, 6.5. So 5.3 kind of seems about average. So there's not been a lot of change. There's no drastic changes over this fall market. Here's Peel region condos. 37 were sold. That's high, actually, for what we sell on a weekly basis in Peel. The last few weeks we were doing 23, 25, 22. 37 is a busier week than normal. One of those was at $1 million or more. Average sold price is $602,000, which is one of the higher averages over the course of the fall market. 602 is still 15% lower than where we were this time a year ago. The median price is 6% lower. 37 were sold a quarter, almost a quarter, 24% sold at list price or more. Listings, they're not necessarily, maybe they're coming down, but this week listings were up. Active listings, almost in every other segment, any other market, active listings is trending down. Not for Peel region condos. Active listings, just slightly, trending upwards. And months of inventory sitting at 5.7 months of inventory. We've been in the 8 and 9 months of inventory the last 3 weeks. 5.7 is because this one week we shot up to 37 sales. We'll see how that plays out, but right now we're sitting at 5.7 months of inventory, which is just the other side of a balanced market, sitting in a buyer's market. Here's a quick summary. Pretty much a buyer's market wherever you look, but we're just over the balanced market line. We say is 5 months of inventory. So you're going to get both. You're going to get balanced market. You're going to get buyer's market. Thanks for watching. Have an awesome day.